Oh. Oh my god, you don't... Oh my god, you don't pay for the ad-free version.
Sorry.
It's okay. I mean, you have to pay one way or another. You can't win it. Everybody's in it alone. And they do good business. They're trying to be a good friend of mine. But I was a free man in Paris. I was unfettered and alive. There was nobody calling me up for favors. Nobody's future to decide. And I'd go back there tomorrow, except for the work I've taken on. Stroking the star maker machinery behind the popular song. All right. Okay. I hope we're all warmed up after that. How are you doing, Vinny?
Good. Just making sure the audio is good.
Is it good? Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Well, while he does that, I took a lot of notes today. Even the intro, I wrote down this. Hello, wherever you are, welcome to Bath Chat. Okay, and then there's more written. Okay. I wrote that this is a series probably born out of mental illness, but it's like, I don't know, is that funny? I can hear myself, by the way, over there. Your headphones are really loud. So I'm more concerned for your hearing than anything else. Also, I barely like watching my videos back, so hearing my voice while I'm making the video play in the background is an extra level of that. Okay, but I am... What? Don't eat the mic. Okay. I'm Mary. This is Mary Television. Make sure you click like and subscribe and turn off your computer and then go outside. And, I don't know, do whatever you want. Let's see. I'm just going to read my notebook because I feel like that's going to keep us together the best of all today. But hi, it's good to be here in the bath. It's probably a little dirty. Hi, maybe I just scrap my script and we just read the entire Dr. Bronner's bottle. That would be very bath chat, but that's not what we're talking about today. Okay, today I want to get immediately into things. Apparently not. Because I have a burning desire to clarify and clear the air and refine some things I've said in prior episodes of this show in a segment I've called Wrapping Up. For all the die-hard fans, all 10 of you out there, you know I've done this segment before. And one time I took an improv class when I was a little younger and a little less wise. It wasn't actually an improv class, it was a workshop, so it was only like 2 days. Anyway, the one piece of advice I remember from that improv workshop, taught by Katie Rich, for anyone who's an improv, say, push it away from me, I'm too loud. Thanks. You're like whispering it to me. How are everyone's ears? I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah, I remember one piece of advice from this improv workshop, which was to stop justifying things. And I remember a note in the email with all my notes, even the line said, don't even watch the show Justified. And believe me, I never have and probably never will. I don't know what network that was on, like some kind of TNT or TBS or FX or something. But anyway, I kind of wonder if the wrapping up segment is kind of born out of that, like, kind of self-loathing and need to justify everything. Like, self-loathing in the sense of just, like, assuming I said things in a fucked up way that I'm gonna regret. But I do feel like there are things I've said while I've been streaming on the internet, unedited, that I feel like aren't really the full picture. I feel like they don't really represent how I truly feel. I don't know, that's obviously like a narcissistic kind of task to try and always say everything absolutely correct. And I guess I'm realizing that even more as I say this out loud, but it's like, I feel like sometimes without a coherent script, I feel I misrepresent myself. I wrote that. So this is the coherent script. We'll see how it goes. So first of all, in this last episode, I want to say this, that of course I just want to say this. This is why I turned on a camera. Actually, Vinny, you turned on the camera, so that's why I asked Vinny to help me turn on a camera. Of course, I have something I'd like to say. In the episode where my channel got raided by a bunch of white supremos, aka white supremacists, and joke shows, not even joke shows, why am I trying to make a joke? Because I guess this is technically comedy, at least according to how it's, categorized for YouTube and Google. Anyway, when my channel got raided, I did have someone who, in an emergency pinch, ended up being a comment mod. And I just wanted to give them a shout out. That was episode 9, which I've since privated, because a bunch of people from some version of 8chan came and commented a bunch of really fucked up shit in the comments. And I think another thing I'd like to wrap up is, I feel like I said in the prior episode when I was initially addressing the whole deleting that episode where there was the raid from the white supremacists from the 8chan offshoot. Initially, I feel like I played too hard to the angle, I think, that those are kids who are going to grow out of it, and that I'm more mad about people, on the left or on my team who perpetuate racism and perpetuate white supremacy, but act like, Black Lives Matter. That, I was saying, bothered me so much more. But I didn't want to say that in a way that downplays how fucking horrible the blatant version of racism is. Like, it's not there's no, like, tier list for, like, racism and white supremacy, like, what's worse, what's better. To me, it's just, like, all bad. I don't know. Anyway, so that was, like, my first kind of wrapping up. I just feel like I just want to make it so abundantly clear how toxic and sick and genocidal white supremacy is, and I think it's just, like, something that as white people, especially, okay, we're moving on, because I was told that was boring.
No, I was saying just, I'm getting up, keep going, everything's fine.
Oh, you're getting up, keep going, everything's fine. Okay, well, anyway, I'm gonna focus now. If this was, like, some kind of yoga class, I wouldn't worry about someone else getting up from the mat. I would stay in my zone. And speaking of yoga class, let's all take a deep breath together. And now, let's wrap up the next segment from last episode. I'm just going to start reading the script. Okay. Let's talk Clintons. Wait, before you click out, hear me out. I'm pretty sure wherever you fall politically, you're going to like something that I have to say. So I think the comment I made on the last episode, someone was commenting on how, like, I guess I said something, and someone commented, like, I feel similar, like, I feel like I'm not liberal enough for my liberal friends. And I went on this weird tangent about how Hillary Clinton, came to power under the patriarchy. So it's like coming to power under the patriarchy is like doesn't necessarily mean you represent matriarchal ideas just because you're a woman. Okay. Yeah, feminism and Clinton, and it's like that is an opinion which I formed based on having watched the Pyramid Code, which talks about pre-patriarchy, matriarchal Egyptian society, and some book I read that talked about how bonobos are matriarchal, and blah, 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 blah. I don't think the bare bones idea I shared in the last episode needed to be shared. I don't know. Maybe I'm more embarrassed that I tried to articulate anything about politics because as a people pleaser and traumatized person, I know how riled up and uncomfortable politics immediately I know how riled up and uncomfortable politics immediately makes people, and I wrote immediately defensive, makes people immediately defensive, which is okay, but it's okay for you to have an opinion that like gets people riled up, but I am not well versed enough to feel good about having unprepared opinions on a permanent format like this. In real life, these conversations can be great. Most of my friends are not politically aligned exactly with me, and my opinions have evolved as well as solidified because of talking about politics. Okay. And then I wrote, growing Rush Limbaugh Fox News, ugh. So let's get onto that part. So I think part of why I have this kind of weak, what's the word, disposition about uttering my politics out loud has a lot to do with, my background. And yeah, I want to clean up my channel a little bit. I'm not trying to just use this channel to be oversharing and like therapy that isn't actually, I know, I don't know, like back when I used to go to open mics, like it never works to just treat your craft like it's therapy. But that being said, in my childhood, I grew up, I'll start with this story to just kind of frame what my immediate family situation was like. I used to get driven to school and picked up from school almost every single day by my dad. And he would play on the radio on the way home Rush Limbaugh, which, I guess shout out to anyone who had a similar trauma in their past. Not to overuse the term trauma or traumatized, but I used to get dropped off at grade school or picked up or whatever and listen to Rush Limbaugh. And I remember one day around fourth grade, on the way home, I remember crying, and I couldn't stop crying because Rush Limbaugh was talking about like babies being killed because of terrorism or something, rational, that whatever. And I remember I couldn't stop crying because I was so traumatized by it. And that was the day my mother forbade my father from ever playing Rush Limbaugh with us in the car again, which I'm pretty sure he did occasionally from that point on. But he, at that point, started playing music in the car. So I went from Rush Limbaugh to the Velvet Underground and, Fats Domino, and I mean, lots of great music, actually. I guess that's kind of a point right there. Like, people do have, good sides despite their politics. But regardless of that, just because I stopped having to listen to Rush Limbaugh in the car, we were still a Fox News household, and I remember like the first inkling I had of like politics and that people do not like get along about politics. Well, it's pretty blatant. Like, my dad and mom, conservative, Fox News, as you've established. Everyone else in my family, varying degrees of pretty much liberal. Like my grandfather, liberal. Like my aunt, my uncle, liberal. You know, like liberal, and then and then I have another aunt who's conservative, but a little more liberal conservative style, I would say. And when my family on my dad's side would get together at my grandparents' house, it would always devolve into screaming arguments. I feel like sometimes this happened in restaurants. And it's like, the end of the Clinton administration leading into the Bush administration. Oh my God, the Bush administration, forget about it. Like, horrible. I mean, I don't even remember this, but my cousin Liana, who's like 2 years younger than me, reminded me of this memory where it's like summer and we're all at my grandparents' house. And I guess, of course, I know all the adults are screaming at each other about politics. And my grandpa's, sipping on whiskey while the sun's still out, smoking a cigar, and everyone's just screaming, most drunk. And I guess my cousin Liana and I were like screaming at them to stop, please stop fighting. And Liana was like, and then don't you remember? We started writing these notes that said, please stop fighting, and we started quietly handing them out to all the adults. And I do remember that when she told me that story. I do. It's like vague, but it's totally there. And I think at some point, maybe like my aunt and possibly my mom, like at some point after those letters were handed out by these two little girls, at some point the yelling and screaming maybe didn't stop, but maybe like my cousin and my mom and my aunt, maybe they stopped arguing and like realized like what scene was playing out. So like I feel like part of what I even think about when I look back at that is like these Clinton and Bush years. It's like I think about my family like using politics to express this pain and anger, and like it really isn't about politics sometimes. And it's all of them screaming like that about politics or whatever. It was all at the expense of the children. Like whose side was right in that scenario? It's just like that part of like screaming. It's like that's not a way to live, no matter if your political views are justified or not. I mean, in context, of course, it's like at the same turn, I do think people should be passionate about justice, and I think people should be aware of policy and how it affects their lives. But I admit my weakness that like I don't know how to have a strong. Whoa, I'm sorry. This is so stupid. Oh, I don't know how to have a strong position about politics all the time because I am so traumatized by the role politics played in my life. And, early on, I really quickly, in my teenage years, probably earlier, I really rejected, obviously in 4th grade, I rejected Rush Limbaugh. Hard pass. But it was easy for me to reject Fox News as I began to grow up. Like, especially the whole gay marriage debate. Like, I had a gay friend who was, out in freshman year, and I just remember thinking to myself how I couldn't possibly understand, like, continuing the argument I had learned from my parents and from Fox News. I couldn't possibly comprehend trying to perpetuate that argument to my friend. And the whole pro-war thing, and I remember like like when we're all little, like we do like think everything our parents say is right, but it's interesting, there is that point where you stop being able to believe the argument you're making when you realize and you go out and you live and you experience truth. in your own way. So going back to the Clintons and the script, I have personal experience with all three. Okay, Bill, 1994. My Nana, my other side, my mom's side of the family, my Nana and my aunt took me to see Bill Clinton talk in Ohio, where I'm from. And he was speaking off the back of some train. I don't know. I think my Nana and aunt like used me to get to the front of the line. My mom had dressed me up in some insane red, white, and blue outfit, like a dress and a hat, like the little red, white, and blue like sailor thing with the little hat. I was hot, and Bill was running late, and I was sitting on the grass, and I actually got filmed. I remember being so bored and pissed off. But then finally, like finally at one point he came out, and I don't really remember that part. But when I got home, finally, they turned the TV on. My parents turned the TV on, and I made my first television appearance because apparently, I had been filmed, like, and I guess my Nana or Aunt Pam or whoever like noticed I was getting filmed, told my parents to turn on the evening news, and it was really. I do remember it was really distinctly crazy. I was on screen for like 2 seconds. 2 seconds at the most. But it was weird because I didn't realize how I had looked. I guess like at that age you're too short for mirrors. You don't really know how you look. So it was a very distinct moment. And immediately after I was off screen, or like as soon as like the news segment had ended, I remember my mom and dad being annoyed, which at the tender age of 5 or 4, I didn't realize was because they were Republicans. This was the Clintons' first offense against me, though this one I actually will say is not technically their fault. Okay, in 1996, Bill Clinton came to my grade school in Columbus, Ohio, in the town of Clintonville, which wasn't just because of a cute like photo op, Clintonville, students greet the president. But actually our school had apparently won some blue medal, blue ribbon, okay? And Vinny, will you do me a favor?
What's that?
Can you pull up a Google search and please search for Clintonville, Bill Clinton Immaculate Conception? Yes, the grade school I went to was called Immaculate Conception, Catholic school. Anyway, what pisses me off is I searched.
Are you in this picture?
No. But show those pictures. Okay, what pisses me off is I tried to Google search initially Columbus Dispatch cover Bill Clinton Immaculate Conception. You think something would come up because of course the cover story of the Columbus Dispatch was that Bill Clinton came to the school. But for some reason I can't find that. I can only find those like pictures that are like you can buy a copy for $500 or whatever, which is so annoying. To any of my Columbus, Ohio viewers who went to Immaculate Conception grade school, if any of you know or have the cover, please send it in to the show. AKA, I guess, email me, DM me on Instagram. Okay, but anyway, yeah, so we're all lined up and we're all in alphabetical order. We all have name tags on, okay? And Bill Clinton's coming down the line, shakes my hand, meets me. Of course, I'm in first grade, so like not everybody got to like shake hands with the president, but we were obviously like the first line. We were the cutest, so obviously we got all the first initial photo ops. Bill Clinton. Next to me is this girl named Chelsea. Okay, we have similar last names. Bill Clinton stops in front of the girl next to me and says, "Oh, wow, you spell that just how my daughter does." How does it go?
That's not.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, so he stops and he's like, "Oh, Chelsea, that's just how my daughter spells Chelsea." I don't know, Arkansas? Listen, people go nuts. Okay, the reporters are right there. They're snapping a million pictures. I, of course, start to kind of get pushed out of the way because I don't have even then I was a little easily pushed around. I'm working on it. But beside the point, the Dispatch, the front cover is printed. And the front cover story is the girl Chelsea spells name the same as president's daughter Chelsea. And I was fucking cut out of the picture. I didn't even get to make the front cover. And that felt really bad because I was like, I was right next to this moment. How did they cut me out? So that's my second offense against the Clintons. Okay. Now much later. All right. Oh, and I guess I'm going to add in a bonus offense, which is that one night my parents like left the house or like weren't available or something, and they left Fox News or CNN on, and under your command, Bill Clinton, because I know you're watching, you were just bombing the shit out of Kosovo. And I remember no one was around to tell me I didn't need to watch Kosovo get bombed and have described to me all the people dying or whatever. So that's a bonus offense. All right, much later in life, I worked at a wedding films production place, studio thing. And I started out as an office administrator, but on one fateful day, after mentioning that I was, an editor, I finally got the promotion and got trained to be a wedding films editor. And the premiere wedding film that I was shown to like show what the best wedding film could be was this wedding of these two vaguely like nondescript but very good looking like people. I don't know. And Chelsea Clinton was one of the bridesmaids. So, you can tell that the quality of the film is good because these are rich people and because, like, Chelsea Clinton's in the wedding party. So, of course, they put all their energy into editing this wedding film. Whatever. I'm not going to get into, like, gripes from 2012. Although, clearly, I am. But, anyway, I will say about watching, like, Chelsea Clinton singing karaoke, with her friends in the Hamptons, I remember being struck by like how normal looking and like how normally she was going about things. Like she just was a real person who looked so happy. So maybe not looking like a real person, but I remember distinctly being struck by how normal and happy she was. And so clearly, coming back to the original point, so clearly, in one sense of matriarchy, who am I to come for Hillary Clinton? Who clearly did a good job of mothering Chelsea, or at least hiring people who were good at it and helped her do that. And Bill clearly cares about his daughter as well. But this is the problem. Rich, powerful people can be completely loving and wonderful parents because their children never have to face exposure to poverty or war or systemic white supremacy. And that is my main feeling about politics in one sentiment. Like, on one hand, I admit Socks was the best White House pet. And on the other hand, I hate war and cops. So with that, marks the end of my mentioning of the Clintons, and we will also be adding to that list Bezos and Weinstein because, all right, next wrapping up segment. I feel like I overmentioned these names, which is a testament to why I feel weird about getting into certain subjects. One of the testaments, I don't know if it's a testament, I don't know. I want to seize the means, but if some people are well read, I'm medium rare read. Sure, I've read On Socialism, but again, reading one Chomsky book doesn't qualify me to talk about this stuff. And I ended it there. I will say, I mean, it's like, obviously I don't have to choose to be a political commenter. I don't want to be so weak that I don't address politics. But at the same time, I don't know who's trying to get that kind of information from this channel. And yeah, I got trauma related to it. Anyway, next wrapping up segment. Canceling boomer rock stars. Now this is again from episode 10. Sorry to people who haven't been, following along, but I feel like maybe I don't know, I don't care. Okay, I wasn't trying to say that, I have to, okay. So canceling boomer rock stars. I was making some point in the last bath chat, this insular, universe that exists for me and, 200 other people. I don't know. But in the last bath chat, I was talking about how these older rock stars don't seem to be cancelable. And first of all, cancel, I feel like that's another word that's on the do not use ever again. One, realizing it came from American Black vernacular. It's like that does change kind of the way I feel like I can even go about using canceling as a concept. And more than that, I don't know, canceling's been kind of whatever. I'm going off script. But anyway, I was just talking about why that's not happening. And again, I think I just didn't make myself clear enough. I made a point about how I had seen this video on YouTube of this woman talking about this night with David Bowie. Vinny?
Yeah.
Can you search I hung out with David Bowie one night or something, or story time. It's it was just this older woman talking about this night with David Bowie. She might have been 14 years old. I think she talked about making out with David Bowie on a bed and then getting caught by the cops. I forget if she was a little older.
A night spent with David Bowie and Iggy Pop?
It shouldn't be Iggy Pop. Or maybe, is it a woman?
No, I think this is...
No, that's not going to be it. So anyway...
Talk about what a great time he had.
But I was just making this point that I was really surprised watching the video I just mentioned, because the woman was remembering everything really fondly. And, in my last video, I made the whole point how it's World War II vets versus Vietnam vets, where it's
Is this a video or an article?
It's a video.
It's a video.
Yeah, on YouTube.
Angie Bowie?
No.
Oh, that's...
Anyway, so sorry to ignore you when you're trying to help me. But the point was, I was taking it back. Oh yeah, whatever. World War II, Vietnam War. Okay, so my point was that, so both of those class traders, soldiers, both of those veterans of war, both of them would experience shell shock, trauma, lifelong issues. However, World War II, everyone was greeted like a hero. Vietnam War, much more complicated. And, not so much treated like a hero because, for a good reason, people weren't buying into that war. Regardless, you can see, the stereotype of Vietnam vets is very much, of a very disturbed kind of person, whereas the World War II vets, disturbed, but on the surface, mentally, didn't see it that way. And I think these kind of instances of, people getting called out for sexual assault and I can't use pretend words or letters, acronyms anymore. Sexual assault, because in recent history, that's been more of a thing, and even in not so recent history, the trajectory has been moving toward these kind of things being called out, and I think that's good as someone who has been dealing with resurfaced memories of being molested as a child. Believe me, and not even as a child, but even as a 18-year-old woman. Like, there are just so many instances that I hope people younger than me do not have to experience. I hope it becomes unacceptable behavior, but my point was not whether it should be acceptable or not. The point was like, wow, these guys really haven't been called out, have they? And part of it, I agree with my point that I think the culture around like getting with a rock star is very different than it is now. And I think kind of just that like mentality and that kind of like societal norm, I think is probably part of why it matters. And I think also, well, here we go. Let me read. I wasn't trying to say the behavior was good. I was trying to examine why no one has come forward about certain people. And then I wrote free love. Yeah, this whole concept of free love from the 60s, it's like that was horrible for a lot of people, and I'm going to say like a lot of women, like specifically. Free love was most like, sure, maybe it empowered some people who were polyamorous or open or fluid. Sure, I'm not saying that wasn't a part of it, but a lot of free love, like it still was the 60s, which was right after the 50s, you know, like a lot of that free love stuff was used as a way to commit horrible acts, and a lot of those acts committed against people from that time, I think traumatized it you know, when something like that happens to you, it stays with you for life. And so why people haven't come forward, well, I realize this in kind of talking it out with myself, is like one missing factor is I'm sure a lot of the women or people who would have an issue and who would have come out are probably dead by now. Because if that bothered you and it happened, and you were living in a world where nobody gave a fuck what a rock star did and you were asking for it, like that probably like wasted your body away, you know, in one way or another. Like if you were bothered by it, you probably have already been taken out by it, or you just don't have the means to, you know, be able to get that message out there. Maybe I think that's actually sad. I think, let's see, I wrote, boomers cared about fame in a way that is different, because now everybody can possibly and wants to be famous, but back then, famous people were like God. I mean, look at the Beatles. There aren't rivers of pee streaming out of concerts anymore, and that's good, because famous people shouldn't be God. Consent should be explicit.
Wait, what? Rivers of pee?
Oh my God, yes. Did you know that the Beatles, there used to be like rivers of pee outside of these concerts?
Because people that wouldn't go use the
Yeah,
bathroom.
because they were. Have you ever seen Beatlemania?
No. Well, yeah.
Okay, just look up for the viewers. Like, just type in Beatlemania and, you know, play some video without the audio. Yeah. I mean, and then you think about it, and in the 60s, it was all like, God is dead, so, like, of course celebrities mattered, you know? I really don't think it's too much to ask to give people at least 18. Oh, yeah, okay, I guess I'll repeat this. I think it's good that there aren't rivers of pee at concerts anymore, because famous people shouldn't be God, consent should be explicit, and I really don't think it's too much to ask to give people at least 18 years before you begin sexualizing them. I think there are more things I've said and completely... All right, I don't know. I guess that's the end of that segment. So that's all the wrapping up. And now we're going to go... I'm trying to think of oh yeah, and one more thing. Also in the last episode, I said that like my brothers could get away with scratching their balls in front of me, but like I had to cross my legs one time when I was wearing shorts. If my niece and nephew are watching, turn this off and please forget everything you've ever seen that I've put on the internet. For a couple of years at least. I can't handle that. But before you turn it off, this off,
Don't eat the mic.
before you turn this off, I just want you to know my brother, your dad, never did that in front of me. And your dad, if anything, took really good care of me. And used to babysit me all the time and was like the best. So like, don't worry. Anyway, okay, now turn it off. But if you're not related to me, keep this on. Okay, so now I want to talk about, like I said this in the description. How did I end up wording it?
Over the influence?
Yeah, do you like that? I'm done with being over the influence. No, that's not what I said. I said I'm over the influence, which is like I'm over influencers or being influenced. But I thought it's kind of a play on words of like I'm under the influence, but I'm not. I'm over the influence. Okay. Okay. So I wanted to talk about this. I don't know. I on top of retiring, I mean, we're making a lot of changes today. We're retiring a lot of names and words. And I think in general, it's just like talking about other YouTubers. Like, I think
Someone just said.
Okay, we've got a comment coming
I don't
in.
know what the fuck this means. It's true what they say. Cops and women don't mix. It's like eating a spoonful of Drano. Sure, it'll clean you out, but it'll leave you hollow inside. Does this have anything to do with the fuck you're talking about? Or is this someone trolling?
I can't. I have to stick to script. I can't know that right now.
Okay.
I have to stick to the script. Okay, so I'll digest that later. I'll figure that one out later. Okay. Anyway, I just have kind of realized like it's very easy to get views on YouTube when you use a name of a bigger YouTuber. And I've been trying to kind of make changes around that for, I don't know, I think a couple months now, but I definitely went through this heightened period over the last year of feeling like, well, I don't know, it's just, okay, I guess I should read the thing. But I kind of felt like I fell into this trap of like kind of modeling how I was doing this after popular people doing this. And one of those channels that I was kind of like, oh, that's an interesting way they figured out how to get success on this platform. One of those channels was H3. And like the first time I think I watched the channel was because Tim Heidecker was a guest on the show back when they used to do interviews. And you know, once you see one interview, you see everybody else that H3 had interviewed, and it's like, oh wow, like all these really cool people. And you know, immediately it's like if you see like 5 different cool people interviewing with someone, you like assume like they're cool, like cool by association. So I kind of had that in the back of my head. And then they put out this video that got on trending, and it was just Ethan, and it was the whole Instagram versus real life video that he did. And I remember like clicking in, and just like sometimes what's on trending, you know, it gets you. And whatever, I watched it, and I remember thinking it was like one of those many moments I've had on YouTube where I'm like, what the fuck do I do? Like, do I really just say like low common denominator shit, and that's really all it takes to get on trending? Like, the whole concept of his Instagram versus real life video is taking like women who had photographs of them on Instagram when they're all looking good, and then in real life. And like later he would go on to try and explain that, and it was all like you know, the joke is about how that's bad because, you know, little girls, you know, younger people don't understand that like people don't look like that, and they feel bad, and so these women should be ashamed of themselves for that. And I don't know, like I think that's kind of a weak argument. I think that one's one you just kind of have to like throw your hands up and say I fucked up, because like mostly in the video, he's not making fun of the polished vision. He's like, wow, hot. He's making fun of the real life picture where it's like, you look like this, you look like a whale. Like, if that's the joke, then your joke isn't little girls should feel good about, how they look. The joke that was actually presented was like, let's make fun of people who look bad. And sometimes it was peppered in, was like the idea of like, this person looks great here and here they look ridiculous. But it's like, I feel like that wasn't the overwhelming joke out of the video. And why I got more into H3 is because Ethan ended up having one of the women he talked about in that video on his channel. And then there was a subsequent series of interviews he had with her. That person is Trisha Paytas. And, yeah. And that began what was for a while a very interesting dynamic. It's rare to see two people disagree. And because there's so much to disagree with about both of the individuals, I think the dynamic worked really well. And I think it's true. Like, much like anyone who's honestly famous on this fucking platform, both Trisha Paytas and Ethan Klein have a lot of problematic behavior and things they've said and perpetuated. And I think, if anything, like, yeah, seeing two people who disagree with each other, but also like you kind of agree with both person when they're disagreeing with the other person. I think one of like Ethan's failures actually was like, I think he kind of missed the ball sometimes, like when Trisha probably could have like been actually called out. And so whatever. I mean, like they both called each other actually out, but what was refreshing was like that they would come back week after week. And like to me, again, after just describing to you the binary political hellscape I grew up in, I did find something I think really comforting about watching two people disagree and again come back. And at first I was watching because I think Trisha Paytas had this arc where she started to unpack things and explain her attention seeking, and she shared these horrific stories of being young in Hollywood and, being an escort. And, Ethan, it was interesting watching his arc of evolving to understand that behavior and getting on the other side of his own perspectives on his own trolling. Like, it was interesting to see two people be confronted by each other with like their own like destructive ways of having gotten views in the past. And even though I've never really gotten that many of my own views, like I do understand the desire to get the views. I'll get into that more. Yeah, I found it fascinating. And I even started watching other H3 content, and I was surprised, it was a little lefty, it was pretty funny, and there were these hilarious drops. Now, getting back to my whole, like, getting into this parasocial, like, thing with, like, this channel and just, whatever. Like, I got into H3 because I had watched a Tim Heidecker interview on H3's channel, and I noticed, like, as they were doing this certain new kind of format of the show, they were doing like drops as well. And I know drops on our like podcast or radio show, that's not original. That doesn't belong to anyone. But actually, Tim Heidecker has a YouTube show called Office Hours, which again I had been a fan of, and that had led me into getting into H3. Anyway, the Office Hours show that Tim Heidecker does, he has comedians Vic Berger and Doug Lusenhop on, and they provide very artful, hilarious drops. And a drop is just like, I wish you could do a drop right now. It'd be like if I said, can you play a drop?
I mean, it's just a soundboard.
It's like a soundboard, fine. It's just a sound effect. I don't know if anyone was confused. I don't know if anyone used that explanation. But anyway.
If I recorded that just now, and then played it 5 minutes later, that'd be a drop.
Sure. Anyway, I mean, like, Vinny, we would both crack up, like, especially at the drop where it's like they have like good luck, Ethan, and the ones where it's like, specifically the ones where it's like Trump saying, great work, Dan, or thank you, Ethan. The Trump.
Yeah.
Like, those were so funny. Okay, but stay tuned. Remember that. Anyway, and when the David Dobrik thing came out and that whole drama storm started, I actually really related to it for reasons I've already discussed on this channel. Not going to recap those. And then the James Charles thing, and then the David Dobrik thing and the James Charles thing got really played out, whatever. And I kept watching for a while. And then Frenemies did an episode where there was like some challenge where like Ethan bought a Rolls Royce because he lost some contest or something. Vom.com. Yeah, and then at that point, it just kind of became like, then at that point, it just kind of became like about getting views by flaunting wealth and having drama, like everything on YouTube. And I kept watching, even though, like, I would skip things I didn't like, but even though, like, I feel like that turning point, like, they did some roles, I hate that. I hate that part of YouTube where it's like, I give a guy $10,000 for ordering a pizza. It's like, this isn't real. Like, there was no thought that went into, like, any part of that. It's not real content. It just, like, plays upon the fact that people are so hungry for money that that's an exciting video to watch for them because it's so outside of their normal life and it's, like, such a, like, fantasy fulfillment for them. Anyway, because of the lonely, isolating state I was in, numbing entertainment was something I was seeking. Like, I know housewives and YouTube drama are brain poison, but I'm trying not to put alcohol in my body here. So, of course, trash TV is comforting because they're similar. So, for a while, I was just letting the algorithm continue to put this stuff in my stream. And I hope I read
Emmett Fitzhume just said, I'm sorry I'm late. I had to attend the reading of a will. I had to stay to the very end and found out I received nothing. Broke my arm.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I'm really sorry. You don't have to apologize for being late. That sounds like a really fun evening you just had. And I'm, of course, being sarcastic. I am going to get back to the script now, but my apologies for that mess that you just experienced. Okay. Back to the reading. Okay, so yeah, I just continued to let the algorithm kind of put it in my stream and I'd watch it and then click out when I didn't like it. But, what's worse than anything is the influence it had on me. It really showed up in the work I was doing. Maybe because I have this thing of not feeling good enough. I've tried to parody the trending page to get views. The parodying became genuine, though, and recognizing myself using names to get their audience and maybe to get them themselves to watch and give me a job, maybe. Realizing that showing up in my output made me feel so gross. And then, upon realizing I needed to watch real art and creative stuff if I was ever going to feel better, I switched it up. One program I was excited to catch up on after like a year break was Office Hours with Tim Heidecker. During the course of my binge of listening to the show while painting walls in my apartment I didn't need to paint, I was horrified to realize that a lot of the drops I had thought were so funny on the H3 podcast had been directly ripped off from the Office Hours podcast. And I know that's like kind of a lot to throw around, but I mean, whatever. I'm just going to say as a listener, I felt genuinely so bummed out every time I would hear like the thank you, Tim, or whatever, like Trump drop. And like peace and love, like I knew that had originally come from Office Hours, but I figured like, oh, peace and love, that's just one. Like, that's kind of like, maybe that's out there, you know, who knows? Maybe even like Howard Stern does that. But it's like, you have peace and love, you have the thank you, you know, insert name Trump ones. It's just like, and there were more, like, I don't remember, because again, like any of these podcasts, they're just things I have on in the background, as I'm sure you know. Sweet dreams to all of those of you watching just to fall asleep to my annoying voice. Maybe not annoying. I've been a little hard on myself. I think I gotta loosen up here. But yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Like, I do think like whoever is doing the drops for the H3 program, I think they're kind of heavily influenced by the Office Hours podcast, and I think they get away with like kind of just doing the same shtick, literally the exact same shtick. I think they get away with it because their audience is so much younger, and there isn't necessarily overlap between the two. I mean, there is, obviously, look at me, but anyway. I was horrified when I started hearing like these jokes and like the something is about to bust, like all these things. Like, anyway, what made me unsubscribe from H3 though was that in conjunction with all of this, Ethan and Hila put out this video called The Black Challenge. And I don't know if you've seen this before. Don't like search it necessarily, but it's like that's kind of the final nail in a coffin kind of thing for me, where I'm just like, I don't think anything about this content is good for me to be watching. So this video, the screenshot, like the thumbnail, is the joke kind of, and kind of the clickbait, because Ethan and Hila look like they're in blackface. And I'm talking like the jazz singer, old black and white movies, blackface, like the worst, like whatever. I don't need to say it's the worst kind, but like bad. And I think like the big part of the joke is that you know, you think it's blackface, and then you click on it and it's like, oh no, it's a mask. But it's like, and like you know, I guess like the whole thing is because I watched it because I was kind of horrified. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I guess it was the whole thing was Hila wanted to do it. I don't know why. And I will say this, like, I can actually understand that someone from a place like Israel would not necessarily understand why blackface is so horrifying, because like that's an American thing, I'm pretty sure, as far as I know. And so like, you know, these kind of homogenized places, not that Israel's exactly homogenized, but again, like, it's a different experience than growing up in America. However, Ethan, who grew up in America, who's very well educated, for him not to explain that that was unacceptable to do, or for him not to decide himself it was unexplainable to do, like, whatever. I mean, and even if he didn't understand then, in like 2014 or whenever this came out, that like that wasn't okay, like he should have understood after last summer that that wasn't okay, and that it wasn't worth it. It's just not worth it. It's like you have millions and billions of views. Like, why does that video need to stay up of all the ones? He definitely should get that. He should get why the criticisms of that video are correct or whatever. I don't know. In conclusion, it's hard to curb the appetite for views. I imagine it's an addicting cycle once it starts. Hila and her team design cool stuff, but the H3 channel has been revealed to me to lack originality, perpetuate drama culture to the detriment of their young audience, and Ethan thought saying people are going to think this is blackface makes it somehow not blackface. And for these reasons, I'm out. Unfortunately, I think because of his success with the algorithm being what it is, he developed a sense of humor, developed in kind of a soulless place Not that he is soulless, but the algorithm is. So anything created around it will be influenced by that. Capitalism is not conducive to art or comedy. Capitalism fails as a model for anything creative, yet all success has to bow to it in one way or another. And I admit that as far as copying, I myself am guilty of being influenced / repeating and lifting jokes and phrases. I use Joe Rogan, and I don't always credit that. I heard that originally from Tim Heidecker years ago. So I admit, I've said it on the channel. So I admit, I have done the thing I am criticizing, the exact same thing down to the person I stole from. That's probably why I was so horrified, because ever since I put out and subsequently unlisted a video I made about my fever dreams, suspicions of having been ripped off by famous drag queen and musician Trixie Mattel, ever since making that video where I thought I had been stolen from, anyway, ever since then, I have been realizing how much I actually have repeated or lifted other people's ideas, both famous and personal friends. Especially when I'm streaming or uploading as much content as I humanely can, because again, I was trying to stoke the star maker machinery behind the popular song, aka the algorithm. Although, I don't think Joni ever failed to make art while stoking the star maker machinery behind the popular song. Feeling like a failure because I don't have more views isn't going to help me succeed, but somehow the universe will not allow me to succeed on mediocrity, and I am accepting of that and actually very grateful for that. I don't know. I could have read this twice. I don't want a mansion or Tesla or views. I don't want to be lame. I'd rather be a loser who likes my own output than a self-loathing winner. I'm tapping out of the race to get where I think my peers are, only to get there and feel more miserable. I just want to find the real parts of reality. I don't want to keep getting duped into thinking something is human that's actually just selling bullshit I don't need. Can you even get 1 million views without selling something or selling out? My torrid affair with capitalist hustle culture is of course born from being lower middle class, outside of a period in the early 2000s where my dad had a financial boom and suddenly we had an LCD flat screen and a Tahoe SUV. Although the kids didn't get to enjoy the boom quite the same, I was a kid who was always told, too expensive, we can make that, although no one helped me make that when we would get home. All of my clothes were hand-me-down, thrift store, or clearance rack. And a couple of years later, after they initially bought the Tahoe, they sold the Tahoe. And a couple of years after that, in 2008, they lost everything that was already hanging on by a thread. The business, the house, will to live. I was 18. I went out into the world thinking my purpose was to get rich and famous and save my family. Some gray years of alcoholism followed by 4 years of sobriety later, I realized I need to take care of myself first, which is a struggle when the economic system surrounding me groomed me into such an addled consumer. Awareness of the empty, addictive nature of fame and success doesn't make it easy to step outside of it when it is seen as good by the culture around you. I mean, Hannah Montana was a kids' show. I'm so sick of being influenced. I mean, oh yeah. I said it. I was supposed to say this a couple pages back, but I make this pledge to you viewers today. I will never play games with the algorithm, or no, I will never play algorithm games ever again. And I mean my pledge about the algorithm. And if you are one of the approximately 200 people who watch this freak show, please hold me accountable if you care to. But don't comment if you don't want to. Don't smash like. Just watch and listen to things that feel surprising and enlightening and inspiring and real. And if I don't feel like I live up to that, don't question your intuition. Just get out, run, separate the bullshit out of your life, and I'll do the same.
What do you want me to cut it? Should I wait?
I was a free man in Paris. I was unfettered in life. There was no one in line on favors. Nobody is easy to decide. And I'd go back there tomorrow except for the work I've taken on. Stroking the star, maker machinery behind the popular song.
Mary, sing the song.
Fuck you, you don't even show up.
Let's keep it
Okay, we're done.